Okay, great. So good afternoon, everyone. And also to those watching these as replays on YouTube, thank you again for joining in. It really does make it all worthwhile when you see that there are people that are actually watching the videos that you create. Today's session, like we said, is on animation for storytelling. Again, just a little bit about me. If you don't know who I am, my name is Matt Pullen. I work at the University of South Wales. I'm also an Apple professional learning specialist and support schools in the use of technology as well. Like we said, today's session is on animation for storytelling. We're going to look at some simple things that you can do and also set for learners at home around storytelling, developing their literacy skills, etc. Now, I feel a bit of a fraud with this picture of me at the moment. It actually is probably a little bit more like this at the moment. COVID taking its impact on the length of my hair, and I don't do good with, or don't do well with long hair. So I have a little bit of fun by changing my emoji. Okay, great. So again, for those of you watching live, if you're watching the recording, you won't be able to do the chat function. But if you're watching live, do remember that if you want to engage in the conversation, if you tap on your screen, if you're on an iPad, you'll be able to tap down here where it's got the participants, and then you'll see a window where you can tap chat, and then you'll be able to chat away. So if you've got any questions as we're going through the session, please jump through and you'll be able to see things. There's one question come in that someone can't hear me. Could those, well, if that's a general issue, could people just all say that you can't hear me? If that's an issue for the one person that's checked in, just double check that everything is set up right on your device, that you can hear me. So I'll just wait to see if everybody can hear me. A thumbs up or a yes. Okay, so it looks like that my sound is coming through. So if you just want to double check on your audio, if you jump out and then jump back in, sometimes you just have to allow your allow your audio so that you can hear me on the other end of the WebEx. But this will be recorded anyway. Okay, so if you need to, I will. You'll be able to see this as a recording later. Great. Okay, so let's jump in. We're going to look at how we can engage storytellers. Everybody's got a story. The whole world is right now full of stories of different things, how you're getting through the day-to-day issues, down to children that just want to tell a story because it's going to keep them engaged with things. We know that in schools, storytelling is something that we use a lot to try to develop students' understanding of things, but it can be an issue with some learners, mostly boys, I'll be honest, where they just don't engage necessarily in the storytelling process. So we're going to have a look at some ways that you can stealth teach these children by utilizing some technology, maybe to get them to want to tell a story in a slightly different way. So we'll look at how we can develop your story to tell. What is it you want to talk about? An idea around writing scripts as opposed to writing stories. I use this with my son quite a bit to get him to write stories. I just say it's a script for a movie as opposed to a story, and then he thinks he's making a movie, right? So then all of a sudden he's a lot more excited. And then we'll talk about the technology that goes on either before or after about how you can bring that story to life. So let's jump on to the first bit. This is all around structuring a story. Now, you guys are educators. I'm not going to talk to you necessarily about like the structure of a story or anything like that. This isn't a literacy session. This is about how we use technology. But whether you're using technology or you're just writing this directly into a book, the process is the same, right? You're going to have a storyboard. You're going to have some process which can scaffold the approach. You know, who are the characters? What's the main kind of crux of the story? What's your theme? Where might it be taking place? All of that. So all of those things are still as relevant if you're doing it in a technological way as to doing it in the more traditional way where we're just going to write it down in your books. What I wanted to introduce, though, is something that I've done with my child and in schools that I've worked with in the past. And that's to look at iMovie as a scaffold. Now, iMovie is a great tool for creating your finished product if you're ever making anything. But actually, if we flip it slightly, we can look at how one of the elements in iMovie can be a really, really useful storyboard element in itself and help you structure your approach. So I'm going to jump into iMovie now and we'll take a look at that. So iMovie is the star on the purple background. When you first go into it, you can just tap on the plus to start a new project. And we're going to tap on trailer. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this. Now along the bottom, you'll see there's lots of different themes for your story that you might want to make. Now, the words and everything you can change. These are just outlines, okay? So let's imagine that we were doing a scary story. If I tap on this and tap on play, we're not going to hear the sound, but you'll see what happens is it puts together a trailer that you might have for the start of a movie. And you can change the words and you change these images. So you don't have the images of someone else's children, but what you get is an outline. And all you need to do is start to think about what would my story be around. And if I was to condense it into a minute-long trailer for my story, what's the basic overview of what we're trying to achieve? So I'm just going to tap on pause there. I'm going to use the scary one as my outline and tap on create. And this is where it suddenly becomes a bit of a planning tool as opposed to a finished article. On the left-hand side, that's my movie. Okay, if I can play that through, it's going to show you the same as what I did before. But I don't want it to be about the spooky house of Shady Lane. So if I tap over here in the right-hand panel, I can delete that text, and I could say, I'm going to call it the Wizarding World, only because, well, you'll see in a second as to why. Ooh. For some reason, Wizard. There we go. And you'll see as you change the text on the right hand side, the text on your video changes. So that's, you visually get to see that straight away. I've called it Pull-in Films because that's my last name. And then you can change your intro bit. So you can go through these and think, well, if it's going to be a scary film, probably that's the nicest one. But there are lots of different ones that you can use. Again, quite nice for children to play around with themes and thinking about those things. And then down the bottom, you get the credits, right? Who's it directed by? Who's it edited by? That's quite fun at the end of your movie. It's not necessarily important for this bit, but it is quite fun to change those things. So next, we're going to go on to the storyboard. And this is the bit that really helps build your story. I just want an overview of the story that I might be telling. So Pull-in Films is going to be my introduction. And then it's going to ask me for some pictures that would go in. Now, this depends on your learners as to how you might want to do this. You could take some pictures of different things. So if I come down here, I'm not going to use my photos off of my album for this. I'm going to go to the camera. And you'll see I've got a bit of a setup in place here already. I'm just going to take a picture. And I might just zoom in on one of those characters. Here we go. And I'm just going to take the picture. And that's going to add that into that slot. And you'll see it moves on to the second one. And then I'll take a picture of the next character. And so on and so forth, right? You can continue building that. If I go to my photos, I should have, I've got some castles in here, as I've used so far a lot. I could just drop a castle in and so on and so forth. It's just going to keep building and building and building this video, okay? So now I come on to the first bit of text. So what is my story actually going to be about? So I start to think about, what text here do I want to add in? And this is the planning stage. It was a dark. And again, you can see that that's changed the text over on the other side. And then you can go through each section and you just have these brief overviews of different sections of your story. And now this would relate back to anything that you've done planned on a piece of paper. What is your plot? What is your overview? What is the main issue that the characters are going to face? How are they going to overcome that? And you would just basically go through each one of those. But the difference here is the children also get to then add in photos, add in video, add in drawings that they've done, whatever it might be in this media kind of section. Okay, so you tap on any one of these, they add in the media for themselves. So that gives them a really, really nice kind of overview plan of what they want their story to be around. We're not saying this is the full story, but they haven't done a piece of writing yet. They're just saying my story would be around this topic and this is what it would look like. If I just go back to the very start of this then, go back to this, if I tap play, you'll see that, you can easily just go through that process. So Pull-in Films, it does have a soundtrack, by the way, it's a spooky soundtrack. And you kind of get that overview and your text goes into those boxes. So just kind of wanted to highlight iMovie as a tool for planning as opposed to a tool that you just use at the end all the time. So there we go. So that's our first kind of introduction, iMovie as that scaffold for different things. The second one we're going to look through is this idea of stop motion. Now, stop motion is used really, really well in schools. I've seen it used fantastically well for loads and loads of different things. So we're just going to have a look at what you could do, why stop motion is a useful tool, and a couple of kind of cheats if you haven't got the apps, and if you're sending sort of an activity like this home to learners, how they can very, very quickly do stop motion just by using a camera on a mobile device, obviously. So for this, I'm going to kind of show something else as well, because I saw this idea shared by a friend, Simon Pyle. I've seen it on Twitter as well. This is a pizza box that I got hold of before the coronavirus. And I've just painted it green. Okay, so the entire box is just painted green. So there's a lovely little like technology art activity for your students. Can they design their own box? Mine is boring and green on the outside as well. If they, put the lid down, they could have, a whole design. They could put curtains on it. They could do all sorts, right? It could be a whole design activity in itself. And the reason why I've painted it green is because once I've created this, I'm actually going to also show you some green screen activity. So I've got my kind of miniature green screen tool here that you can use, and it doesn't cost really anything. I went into the pizza shop and just asked the guy whilst I was picking up an order, could I have a spare pizza box? And he was like, yeah, fine, no problem. And I just got this for free. Now, as a school, you want like 30 or 40, I'm sure they'll potentially do it. It's just a pizza box. You could also make this out of a cereal box, right? Just cut the sides off it and just have it as a folding thing, paint it green. That's all you need, just a green background and a green base. I'm just using a piece of card here just to, give me something else to stand them on that looks nice, right? So it's really, really simple. Okay, so for stop motion, I've opened the camera app. You'll be used to seeing this. On the right-hand side, I've got my camera take button, which is the circle, the white circle. And all I'm going to do is just take a series of pictures and move my characters. I'm going to do this really quickly. Obviously, you want your children to take a little bit more time and make sure, maybe the arms are going to move and the legs are going to move, or both characters move at the same time. But I just want to kind of just show you the process, really. Making sure I take my hand out of the shot each time. Maybe turns around. There we go. Okay, so I've just taken a series of pictures using the camera app. Now, underneath the way I've taken the photos, there is my media icon. That's going to take me to my camera roll. If I tap on that, on the screen, you'll see along the bottom are all the pictures that I've just taken. And now if I just slide along that, I've just simply created some stop motion. Okay, and I also have full control over the speed that I play that through. So it's really, really quick and easy to do. Haven't had to use an app, and I have full control over the speed, etc. Now, there are stop motion apps that you can get that do this. We're just looking at shortcuts to be able to do this really, really quick and easy. I've opened the camera app, I've taken photos, I've moved the object, I've continued the process, and now I just slide through the images. Now, what I need to do now is turn that into a video. So the next step, which is really, really simple to do as well, if I slide down from the top right corner, I won't be able to show you this because I'm mirroring my screen, but what you'll see on the screen is this icon, the circle within the circle. That's a screen record button. And what screen record allows you to do is record everything that's taking place on your screen at that time. So if I turned on screen record now, like I said, I can't show you this whilst I'm mirroring my device anyway. I could simply start at the start of my clip, turn on screen record, choose the speed I want it to move through, finish, stop screen record. That gives me that video all neatly created. Okay, so really, really simple process for adding all of those bits in. So there we go. So that's stop motion in like 2 seconds. Like really, really easy to do. Really, really easy for learners to do this with. I've done this with 4-year-olds and they picked it up really, really quickly and actually probably came up with something a lot better than I've just shown you as well. So once we'd have that video, we would then go into iMovie. And what we'd need to do is add the voiceover. So this is where we're going to go back to iMovie then. I'm going to tap on the plus. And this time I'm going to tap on the movie. And what I would do is just go to create movie. Here's my iMovie page. And we've looked at how to use iMovie in previous sessions. So if you want to recap on those, you can jump into it. I tap on video, find any video that I've recently made. I didn't film that obviously because I can't screen record. So I'm just going to steal this one of my son for a second. And and this is him just waving in front of a green background. So what the first thing I need to do is choose a background. Let me just go back to pictures instead. So let's say that I'm going to put him in space. Add that as my initial picture. Tap on the image itself and turn off Ken Burns. Ken Burns just gives you kind of that movement effect in the back. And then if I go back to my videos, I'll find that video. And again, ideally I'd want my stop motion video here, but I can't add it in whilst I'm doing this. And I'm going to tap on the 3 dots this time and choose green blue screen. And you'll see that that's now added my video above. And it's instantly taken out that green background. I'll show you how it works. If I tap on that background, so I've highlighted the video with the green background, at the top I'm going to tap reset. Now that's the original video. So if I choose it so the video is selected, you'll see at the very top it says tap a colour to make it transparent. So if I tap on the green, it's now got rid of that green background. So the same would apply with your green screen in your pizza box with a stop motion video. You could get rid of everything that's in the background of that stop motion because you've got the green background and replace it with the sky, Hogwarts, whatever. You could put those Lego characters on that small scale anywhere you want them. Okay, so it's as simple as that. Now, green screen is called green screen because obviously it's got a green background. It actually works with other colours as well. So the reason I use this as an example, it says tap a colour to make it transparent. So if I tap on his t-shirt, it's the blue that has disappeared. So you don't need green for this. There are certain colours which are good because they don't reflect the light onto other surfaces, which means it's a more crisp split in terms of those colours. Blue works very, very well. Green works very, very well, but you can play around with different colours, right, and see what works. So there we go. So that's what we would then do. Now let's imagine this is our story. So we've got our stop motion in, we've got our video clipped, we've used the green screen. The last thing we need to do is tap on the microphone over on the left-hand side, and when we're ready, we just record our voice. So I'm not going to add this in now because you won't be able to hear it recorded anyway. But I just tap on record. It's going to give me a countdown, 3, 2, 1. There we go. And then it's just going to record across the timeline where I would then add my story over the top. I can stop whenever I want, accept. And then if I wanted to carry on the story, I move my timeline to that start point and I just repeat the process. Again, it would give me a 3, 2, 1 countdown. And then I would start recording the next part of my audio. And again, I'd use my script for this. And then I can just keep adding in those different bits. Really, really important tip here. Make sure they record in segments, because if you try and record the whole thing and you make a mistake, you have to go all the way back to the start. So what I say is the reason why you plan it as a script is just record each kind of line, get that bit right, and then move on to the next line and let iMovie piece it all together for you. Okay, because if they do make a mistake, you know what it's like 3 minutes into doing a recording and someone shouts something and you feel like you've got to do the whole thing again. Okay, so just for peace of mind for both teachers and the learners. So there we go. So that's using it as a stop motion and thinking about how you can use the green screen as well. So hopefully that's a useful little tip. Now the last one to move on to whilst we're talking about animation is an absolute favourite of mine, and this is how you can use Keynote as an animation tool. So Keynote is Apple's presentation tool, but it is so much more than a presentation tool. I use it probably now for almost everything that I do. Okay, so drawings and all sorts of things. Now within this, we can start to look at some of the transition and build tools that you have within a presentation tool to make animation happen. And then you can also think about how you can utilize green screen with this. So the example I'm going to do is going to go through the whole process. Again, I haven't built a whole story to show. I'm not going to teach grandma to suck eggs on this one. The storytelling bit comes alongside this. This is how you could turn your story into something. And again, I did this with a primary school about a year ago, I think it was, and it was a group of 6-year-olds, and it took me a minute to explain it to them, and then they were coming up with their own stories. And the technology wasn't a barrier to them. They just jumped straight into it. So let's jump out of this. Let's go into the demo that I've created for this, and we'll just go through a couple of the processes. Some of them are repetitions of what we've done in previous sessions. So you'll see that the sun is on the screen here that I stole from the one I did yesterday. I will show you how to add that in. So I've built my page. I'm going to do a very, very basic animation of my bird flying in the background. This is the sun that I used from yesterday's session, and I've just instant alphaed out the background. Again, double check the video from yesterday to look at some of those how-to bits. Now, my story is going to be the bird one day was flying through the sky. Okay, so I'm going to choose the bird icon, which is just a shape added from up here. So if I go through these, I'll just find that. Let's find them. Oh, there, nature, animals. It's just one of these shapes here I can choose. So there's the bird. Just add another one in. Once I've selected the shape, I can just tap on the shape, tap on animate, and then along the bottom you get different tools that you can use. Now, this is for doing all sorts of animation and blinking effects and great things if you want to create a presentation. If I tap on add action though, one of them is to create a path. And what I can do with the create path is, see that the icon is now, or the shape is now, got the red dot around it. That is now like a drawing path that I can use. So now I can animate. I can choose a different shape as well, do add action for this one. And maybe they can both fly off towards the sun. Tap done. Now, each path is individual unless I tap on the 3 lines at the top. And if I change this to with build 1, they're going to fly at the same time. If I tap on preview now, I very, very simply have some very simple animation on the screen. And that's it really. That's as difficult as it needs to be. It's really down to what you create. Now, let's imagine that I want to add in one of my own drawings, or I want to add in a picture that I've taken. If I go back to my green screen, let me just quickly rearrange things here. If I tap on the plus and tap on that media icon, I'm going to use my green screen background with a slight adaptation. If I tap on the camera, I can now take a photo with a green background. So let's imagine I wanted to use this Lego character. If I just frame them in my picture, take the photo, tap use photo. I've got that green background. We looked at this yesterday, the instant alpha. If I tap on the paintbrush, tap on instant alpha, I can get rid of that background. That's a slight shadow on it, so I'll do this in 2 stages so as not to get rid of anything from him. So get rid of that first bit, get rid of that second bit. There we go. Double tap, get rid of the character that jumped down from the side, and just crop that. Tap done. There we go. I've got now a Lego character that I could use in my animation. And the same thing, tap on that character, tap on animate, tap add action, create path. You could just be walking down the road one day. Again, you know, children will come up with a lot better things than me. So what I end up with now is this animation where the birds are flying and then my character moves across the screen. Okay, so really, really simple way to just add in some animation. So I'll go through that one more time from the very start. Built my background, that's just a design thing. Add either a shape, a photo, it could be a drawing that a child has done and you get rid of the background. It could be a piece of art that they've created 3-dimensional, take a photo of it, get rid of the background. I'm just going to go with shapes just for simplicity. We go and have a horse. Change the colour of it so you can see it a little bit easier. Tap on the shape, tap on animate, choose add action, choose create path, and then just move. Okay, and it's just that physical, tactile way of animating things. Now there are other things that you can do. If I go back, let's say that I want to also have that horse get a lot bigger, I could choose scale. And what this does is it links the two together. So if I make that final point of the horse bigger, I could play around with this idea of the horse moving and getting bigger at the same time. Delete that one out. I need to add another one in. So the horse is going to move and scale. So if I just play that one, my birds are flying, character's walking along, and then the horse walks and scales. It should have happened at exactly the same time. For some reason I haven't built with. Which will now mean that the horse will There we go. Get bigger as he moves. Okay, so again, it's really trial and error, and that's half the fun. So how do I get my story to come to life? And that's the thing that you do with your learners. So hopefully that was again, brief overview of what you can do around animation using technology to try to develop learners. Keynote animation, stop motion animation, and using iMovie as a template to sort of build in those different aspects. As always, when we're back up and running as an institution, we will be hosting sessions like this live. You'll be able to come along and have a play around, and obviously it's easier then to answer people's questions face to face. So that's us, South Wales RTC on Twitter. Please do follow us or follow me, Matt6453, if I can help with anything going forward. As it stands, I don't have any more webinars planned. If you are interested in any more webinars, because I'm just conscious of bombarding people at the moment with lots and lots of information, I don't want to annoy people. If you have any ideas for things that you'd like to learn more about, if you want to, as a school, become Apple teachers, I'm considering doing like bespoke training sessions for schools so that all the teachers can come onto the webinars and we can get everybody upskilled. Please drop me an email, drop me a message on Twitter at Matt6453, and I would love to help in any way I can. Thanks again for your time today. If you're watching this on record, thank you very much for joining in, and please enjoy the rest of your sunny Thursday, unless you're watching this on a record, and if it's raining, I'm sorry. It was a lovely day on Thursday when we did it live. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.